little bit early today. We're a little bit early. I'm here with my guy, Tom Jensen. It's me, the coach. And finally, we have real news to talk about, Tom. We have real news. First of all, before we get into it, this is me and Tom's new time slot on Wednesdays outside of Fridays. Now we have moved into the Wednesday slot. We're going to get locked down on time because I'm a shit show. But outside of that, we are here every Wednesday with the Faithful Review. We just want to be a little bit sooner than Friday. We feel like there's much more to talk about. In case in point, we got some new news. So Jauan Jennings signs with the San Francisco 49ers. Before we get into it, how are you doing? Let's give a little bit of time for my man.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Tom, what in the fuck was that, Tom? What was that?
My internet, it always goes bad.
Dog, that shit was crazy.
It was terrible.
Fucking Matrix, dog. I was over here like, what do I do? What do
I do? There's nothing you can do. It's the gerbils that are working my internet are getting tired.
Fucked me up. I was like, dog, Tom, you pay your bills, bro. I just paid my light bill. I know we good. But
yeah, it ain't you, Coach. It's me. But now, hopefully, we don't have any more problems. So let's get into it. Let's talk, Juan.
So right now, there's a lot of implications with the Jauan Jennings signing. All right, but let's just get to brass tacks. All right, let's get to the money. So 2 years, $15 million total. It's looking at a little bit over $7 million per. And it was an extension. It was not a new deal. With everything that's happened throughout the season, throughout the offseason, knowing that BA's got to get paid, knowing that CMC is already kind of sniffing around at a new deal, what does this say for the 49ers that they chose to get this deal done now?
A couple of things. I think first that, here I am. Eric Armstead, his $18 million is available to them as of June 1st. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why we're starting to see this activity now. I think that drives the timing of it. But I was still shocked by it. I mean, why are they doing this? And the more that I thought about it, the more I think that, okay, they have had rumors anyway that they're talking trades with all of the receivers, including Jauan. Mm-hmm. And it could be that those talks didn't go anywhere because he didn't have a contract.
Right.
So my guess is that they did this with the full intent of trading him next year before the draft or in the draft, possibly to try to get the fifth-round pick that they lost. I think that that's what they're looking at, is that this makes him more tradable based on the talks that they've just had in trying to move Jauan. I think that's the intent. Because keeping him wouldn't make any sense. You got way too many players here. And so what are you going to do? The other impact of this is that, what are the targets going to be now for Pearsall, but especially for Cowan? What's he going to get? Not a lot. And so it's going to hurt his development. But I think that big picture, this is about trading Aiyuk or trading Jennings next year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna do you one better. I think there's a possibility that maybe one of these guys gets moved this year. Do you think that the deal is emblematic of them still trying to push for a Super Bowl run, or is
Yeah.
this deal emblematic of them trying to push for the transition of losing BA and them? Well, of losing BA or possibly Brandon Aiyuk or possibly both. I mean, we just had the signing of Ricky Pearsall. We've already drafted. We drafted Ricky Pearsall. We drafted Cowing, and we've already got some young guys that are ancillary pieces to the wide receiver room. What does this? Is this a real piece, or is this in a sense them kicking the can? How do you feel about this deal?
Well, in terms of this year, I think that it's a symbol that it's kitchen sink, that they're throwing everything in to try to win now. And that next year will be the transition year. That's when, okay, we're going to move on from Debo. We're going to plug in Pearsall there. We're going to trade Jennings. We're going to plug in Cowing there. That's how the draft makes sense now, given what they just did with Jauan.
Right.
I think that's the plan. And so 24 is just, okay, we're going to go all out. We're going to throw everything at the wall and see what we can get done.
Okay. I mean, so does this spell out as long term? How do you does this spell out as something that you feel like? Are they buying Jauan's brand? Is this something where they feel like they paid a guy that they developed, that they put a lot of equity in? He's a big part of their offense. They're trying to see him come down the line of the culture for years to come. Or was this another move to kind of keep the door open and to be able to keep options open?
I think more the latter, that it seems to me that based on the draft, that everybody is a 2025 replacement. They just slot in. Pearsall for Debo and so on down the line. So I think that the grand design of all this is all out, all in 2024. Let's get everything that we can possibly have as a weapon and try to win. And then 25, we pivot. And that's when Debo is moved, Jennings is moved, all these guys in free agency, they might not be able to keep Travarius Ward, for example. And so there's a lot of things that they're going to need to do next year. But this year, they're just saying, okay, we have one of the most talented rosters in the league. We're going to go all in and going to try to win this. And I think that this signing was earned by Jauan in terms of how he played, especially in the Super Bowl, that he's proven that in big games he comes up big and that he plays well. And that's something that they value and need. But I don't think that this is an investment in Jauan long term. I think it's a 1 year where they're going to move him next year.
All right, well, if they're trying to move him next year, then they're basically all in for the first 2 years. They're all in this year.
Yeah.
They're still trying to go get a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, they're all in this year, and then they're hoping that whatever they can do in 2025 can absorb a lot of exits. That can you keep Travarius Ward? There's a lot of guys in free agency. Hufanga, who are they going to be able to keep? This draft indicates of who's going to be on the way out and who's going to replace them.
Right. Well, speaking of the guys that are on the way in, right? I wanted to break into this a little bit. With Jauan Jennings coming in as a slot, right? Is it pretty safe to say that the Niners are looking at Ricky Pearsall as an outside receiver now? I mean, you just gave Jauan $10 million guaranteed. He is the de facto slot receiver. So
yeah.
Where does Ricky Pearsall fit into this equation?
I think that he's going to be sub-package guy, a special teamer. He'll be their punt returner, and he'll be there as in case of emergency break glass. If somebody gets hurt, Pearsall can step in. Can he be an outside receiver? I'm not completely sold on that, but they need to find out if he can or not. Because if the plan is that he replaces Debo, okay, let's put him in Debo positions and see what he can do and execute. But I think that this signing of Jauan means that the opportunities are going to be really limited, provided they sign Aiyuk.
Mm-hmm. Well, that leads us to our next topic, right? How does Jauan Jennings signing impact Brandon Aiyuk, right? So we gotta ask ourselves this: with Brandon Aiyuk still in tow, waiting for a deal, in negotiations with the Niners. And really, we've been hearing all types of reports. Some reports we've been hearing that they're eons apart. They're not even close, right?
Yeah.
Then we're hearing other reports that, the Niners are steadfast and really trying to get this deal done, and that they're very happy about the trajectory of where the deal is going. And then you're hearing different things about, BA chirping at other teams. How do you feel like this shakes out? What with everything that we know about the BA situation, or what we don't know rather, how does this contextualize BA situation with this Jauan Jennings signing?
Well, I think that they have to separate the two entirely and just say that BA is a separate entity. We just took care of Jauan, but we're basically renting Jauan for a year and then trading him. And so does that really impact anything that we're doing with Aiyuk? Not really. Especially when you've got the $18 million coming in for Armstead, that there's no cap issues with signing Jauan. So it comes down to, okay, what do you want to do with Aiyuk? And I keep coming back to this. Lynch will never trade Aiyuk unless his price is met. No one in the league will meet his price. Therefore, Aiyuk isn't being traded. And then it's a question of, okay, how do you get this thing across the finish line? And it's Aiyuk, understandably, says, I'm better than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Pay me more than he got. And that's the framework for their deal. And so Amon-Ra got, 24 and a half guaranteed, and then incentives up to 30, and then they spiked his deal in the final year. They gave him $36 million. So the Niners can do the same thing. They can say, okay, Amon-Ra St. Brown got 4 years, 120. We will give you, Brandon Aiyuk, 4 years, 130. We'll give you a higher signing bonus. We will give you more guaranteed money. We won't necessarily spike it in the final year. We will just average it out so that you get paid 27 to 28 guaranteed plus incentives. So the total value of the deal is above Amon-Ra St. Brown. You okay? You on board with that? Hopefully he is. And we'll just have to see. It's the Niner tradition to always wait and drag things out. And we're on that conveyor belt yet again. But I think that this doesn't change anything with Aiyuk, that they still need him. He still needs to be a key piece of this team going forward. Because if you don't have Aiyuk, and then you trade Debo, and you trade Jennings, what do you got? You got the rookies, and can you really depend on that? And just say that going forward, our wide receiver core is going to be Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowling. No. Aiyuk has to be part of that equation. And they 100%. Know that. They know that. It's just, how do you make this deal fit so that Brandon is happy, it's more than what St. Brown got, and he signs a deal and he's on board. But the problem is that we can't, as much as our anxiety hits, we can't force the issue forward. We can't fast forward this process. The Niners are locked into how they do things, and this is going to drag out just like always.
Yeah, so right here, JD Durham says, could it be a safety valve in case BA doesn't sign? What do you think about that?
I don't think it works because, who goes outside? Who takes the place of Brandon Aiyuk? Ricky Pearsall? Given that he could get taken out by physical corners like Alabama did to him, I don't think that's going to work. And so you can say that, long term, that might be what they hope to do, but that's something that you do after he's already had a year to develop his core and get a lot stronger and develop more balance so that physical play at the line doesn't take him off of his game. But this year, I don't think you can just plug in. They might have to if BA doesn't sign. The other problem with this is if they don't come to an agreement, Aiyuk can hold out for 11 weeks and still accrue the year and play the final 6 games. And he could do that. And if they say, well, we're just going to roll you over to 14, Aiyuk says, okay, the heck with you people. I'll see you in December or November. You can't afford to do that in the year when you want to go all in. So I think that they're going to have to come to an agreement with Aiyuk, is the way that I see this.
What do you think it comes down to? Do you think, first of all, let's just talk about timing. With the signing of Jauan Jennings, do you see BA getting signed sooner or later into the middle of the season?
I see him getting signed the way that they normally do, around the same time that Bosa signed last year.
Right before camp.
And that's going to be a problem for what level of football shape is Aiyuk in going into week one? And you need him week one against the Jets. That's going to be a real problem for them in week one, is if they don't sign Aiyuk early on, what Brandon are you getting in the opener? I'm worried about that. But I do think that they are going to come to an agreement, and it's the Niners, so they're going to stretch it out, and it's going to be really late, and everybody's going to wring their hands, and we're just going to have to live with it. But as long as they sign him, then okay, that's a key part of the team going forward, and we'll see what happens.
As far as the money implications are concerned moving forward with the offense, do you see business as usual? Is there going to be an uptick with Jauan's usage? How do you see this falling out onto the offense? I mean, is he going to be highlighted more, or is this just more of, checking a box? I feel like there's a little bit of this where I want to be excited because there was real, I don't know if that's another good question. Was there real concern that this would not get done? Gauge the concern around this not getting done.
Yeah, I don't think they think in those terms. They tend to be optimistic about this, but they're also very formulaic in their approach, that it's always,
right.
This is when we do this. And it's just, what value are you getting out of stretching out the contract talks this late? You're just getting more people signing, and Aiyuk pointing to other players and saying, I'm better than him, pay me more. It's just, there's no value in waiting, but it's what they do. That's their playbook. That's what they're going to do. So be it. But I don't think there was ever any thinking within them of what's the danger of losing Aiyuk. I don't think they ever entertained that thought.
Mm-hmm. So if there was really no danger in getting him signed, so would you say that this was more all on Jauan just posturing to get more money, to get a better deal? Is he aware that he's just here as a rubber stamp, as this is a stopgap, where he's here for max 2 years, and they did enough to just wet his beak? I really feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when we signed Nick Bosa, I don't want to say Nick Bosa because it's just not comparable. They're not even the same type of player.
No.
But when we signed, who did we sign? Let's say, Colton McKivitz. When we signed Colton McKivitz, right? Mm-hmm. Even though we only signed Colton McKivitz for a short amount of time, it felt like the culmination of an earned job, right? Like, job well done.
Yeah, pat in the back.
You stuck it out. You did what you were supposed to do. You're a developed guy of ours. We cut you. You still stayed. You still hung around. And not only did you make the team, but you're an asset for us. We made it all the way to the Super Bowl. Here, Colton. That's what that deal felt like.
Yeah.
I guess the word that I'm looking for, Tom, is transactional. This deal
it absolutely is
transactional. It didn't have I wanted to be excited about this. You know what I mean? I wanted to say, oh, well, we got Jauan. And not so much of what I think about him, not what you or the fans, we think about him. But when you see a player get signed, I guess you're looking for confirmation on what they believe about the player. Right?
Yeah.
And this deal did not seem like the Niners were betting on Juan Jennings. I felt like this deal was more emblematic of the Niners holding on to somebody that they could not lose in the moment. And they understand that you don't necessarily have a market, because if you did, you'd be long gone. So let's get back to the negotiation table, see if we can grease the wheels of progress where we can come back, and now that we know where the market is, nobody bid on you in the draft, nobody bid on you in the trade market, you still are standing on business because you don't want to sign your tender. We have a team that's kind of in transition, and on top of it, does Jauan Jennings get this deal if BA isn't in his contract dispute? I feel like there's a little bit of BA. You think so?
I think so. Yeah, because they had the money. They had the $18 million from Armstead. So you've got money burning a hole in your pocket. You've got Jauan Jennings say, I earned this, and he did. But as you point out, it's completely transactional. It's I delivered for you, pay up, and it feels that way entirely. But part of that perception is because of what they did in the draft too. That if they didn't do what they did in the draft, would we feel the same way? Maybe not.
No. I think it just lacks feel.
It lacks authenticity. It just seems like, okay, here you go.
That's what
and
it
everybody
like.
knows. Everybody's buying into basically the transactional nature of it. Jauan says, okay, I got paid for what I did, and now it makes it easier for me to move on, and I need to move on anyway because there's not enough room on this lineup.
Yo, let's just look at what Maxim just said. Antagonizing your best players for, at best, marginal savings and at worst, paying more is a strange way to manage your team. Very strange indeed.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Well, this is what happens when this is born from Parag of he's MBA at Stanford. And I'm an MBA too. Not that it did me any good, but you look at it and say, all right.
I dated an MBA if that does any good.
My condolences. Anyway, you look at this and you just say, okay, it's basically a game of leverage. And that's the way he approaches that. The problem is that you need to be more flexible than that, and he's proven he's not. He has a play. It's written on one piece of paper. It's a couple paragraphs long. And you have to be more flexible than that. He's not. And as Maxime points out, why don't you pay attention to the negative consequences that come from you doing this every single year? And we get the same result. We get stretched out way too late. Player gets into football shape too late, costs the team, has a down year overall. It's just, Maxime gets it. Absolutely right.
We see it. We see it every year. We see it year in and year out.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be this way. I don't get why they're doing this. They're doing this out of almost inertia. It's, well, this is how we do it.
Well,
why?
This is what they know.
You shouldn't.
Well, let me put it like this. When you are extremely controlling over an organization or an entity, whatever you are, right? That means that you got to be able to handle every job in the building. And sometimes being the leader doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to do every job well. It doesn't.
Yep.
And when it comes to scouting, when it comes to player acquisition, there's a lot of people that have not gotten the credit here because Kyle wears the sole beneficiary hat of, it's all on me. And I think that hurts Kyle in certain ways because when things go to shit, it's really all on him. And I think that it hurts Kyle in a way that he breeds resentment within his own enclave because people want credit. People want to be acknowledged. I know that firsthand.
Sure. Well, everybody does. It's human nature.
Everybody does. Everybody wants to be acknowledged. Go ahead, Tom.
I'm contributing to this. I'm an important piece of that. Please recognize that. Please see my value. Everybody wants that, and everybody should get that. That's something you've earned through your effort, through your work ethic, by being a great teammate. All the things that Jauan does, he's earned this, no question. But as you point out, Kyle is the offensive coordinator, head coach, and GM. And when you've got that much power, he's the name on the marquee. It's Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. Once upon a time, it was Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers, Steve Young and whatever. Even Bill Walsh didn't get the marquee to himself because there were so many great players. Right. But in this era, who's the top name in the marquee? Kyle.
Yeah. I feel like he just does himself a disservice by his position in the organization.
Agreed.
And right now, what we have to see is what Jauan Jennings is going to bring new to the team. I'm sure that I mean, what he's already bringing is just, hard nose. He's going to show up every play. He's going to run his routes. He's going to work hard. That's just kind of what he brought in from Tennessee from the very beginning. And he's exacerbated that and built on it, and I'm happy for him. I mean, from a player standpoint, just from a one-of-one 1099 standpoint, I'm happy for him. He deserves it.
You can't help but root for Jauan because he competes. And he's clutch. There's no moment that's too big for Juan Jennings. And I love that about him, that he's always ready for the moment and that he's unbelievably clutch. And so it's a great thing that they took care of him. But I think that both sides know that this is a transactional deal to make him a trade asset a year down the road.
I think we found the perfect word for it. I don't think there's any show or any perspective where there's anybody who told you that the overall context around this deal was transactional. This is why we're us.
That's right.
This is why we're us.
Absolutely right.
We break it down, bro. We break it down. So
we take it down to the molecular.
To the molecular
we
level.
get right to it.
We get granular, dog.
Yeah.
So look,
well,
now,
that's what we do. We analyze it down. We get to the real meat of it.
Down to the last second, dog. So
shout out to Jesse.
I hope Jesse's watching. I took your fucking tagline, Jesse. I took your tagline. So look, Coach Forrester just recently had some comments in an interview with Niners media, and he was asked explicitly how he feels about the development and the acquisition of the players coming in for the offensive line. And he boasted. He said not only does he not have a problem with the low picks, but that's exactly what he wants. He believes that this is literally he almost answered as if this is what he asked for. Like, I wanted later players, and, I'm going to make the best out of them with what I get. And really, I listened to the comments when you how do you feel about it, Tom?
It comes across as just, did Forrester tell Kyle what Kyle wants to hear and what Forrester thinks Kyle wanted to hear? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you asked Forrester, if you hit him with the scopolamine and said, okay, what do you really want? Mm-hmm. What would a truth serum say? He'd say, obviously I want more talent than what I'm getting.
Right. So as far as the talent that he is getting, let's chart out what the de facto offensive line is and what it should be. I want to talk about the competition battles that we've already highlighted, but let's get a little bit more granular now that we've had a couple of more OTAs. We've had some practices. We've seen these guys in the raw and in the flesh. I've been looking at some reports that have been coming out about Jarrett Kingston, particularly Nugent, the UDFA center that we've also picked up, and Dominic Pooney. To be honest with you, I've heard all glowing reports from all of them. Just all differently, though. Jarrett Kingston looks the part with his body. Nugent is a wide, stout athlete. Seems to be somebody who we can't wait to see on the first day of pads. Just one of those athletes where it's like you really don't know what he is until he can put his hands on somebody. And Dominic Pooney just looks like he's ready to start at guard for what we have already. Now, with our offensive line coming in right now, we got from left to right Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brindle, Joe Feliciano or Spencer Burford, and Colton McKivitz bringing up the rear with the right tackles position. Do we need to change? Have we brought in offensive linemen to make legitimate change, or just are they backups?
I think Pooney can be a starter, and we'll have to see. The one thing I want to know is what's the extent of Brendle's injury? We haven't really got a lot of good information on that, of how long is he going to sit? How severe is this injury? What are we really talking about here? Is this something where Feliciano is going to have to make the long-term move to center? Is this the team now? We don't know. And so that's one thing that I definitely want to find out is what's Brendle's status going into the year? Because that's going to be pretty big. Then you say, okay, Feliciano can go to center. He's played there before in the league and succeeded. That'll work out. And then it's what has Spencer added to his game in this offseason? Can he now compete against Pooney? It might be that he can't, that Pooney's a better player. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to the exhibition games in particular in looking at how Pooney plays, how Feliciano plays at center, and what do we got from Nugent and Kingston. Kingston, you've got a lot of good tools, but you don't necessarily have a great player yet. How long is that going to take to develop? So all of that is kind of up in the air right now. But in terms of what Chris Forster said, it struck me as kind of, well, what do you want me to say? It's kind of backed into a corner, and he says what he's supposed to say. Good soldier.
Are you familiar with the show The Office?
Yeah.
I'm a big Office fan. Like, I love The Office.
Okay.
And if you remember, do you remember the episode where David Wallace was having the deposition? It was Jan was suing Dunder Mifflin.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a deposition with David Wallace, Toby Flenderson, Jan, and Michael. And there was a transcript of David Wallace talking to the lawyer about Michael's candidacy for Jan's job. Remember that? And David Wallace, they asked him, they said, David, was Michael a true candidate for the job? Was he really a candidate for the job? Yeah. And David Wallace goes, I mean, Michael's a nice guy. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say?
Straight for the knees.
It's like, bro, if you're really going to put me in a corner, what do you want me to say, bro?
Right.
Michael is a nice guy. I'm not going to tell you what I really believe about this guy. And that's what it came off. That's the energy that I felt from Coach Forster. It felt as though that they were asking him a pointed question that he knows he can't answer flat out. That's like, you know what that question is like? That's like going up to a cop and asking him, how does he feel about his underfunded police department while he's in inner city New York?
Exactly. It's just, come on now.
I love it. I love the under budgeting. Dude,
right.
I love going out in the mean streets of the Bronx.
I'm here.
With
I have
a 45 revolver.
Right.
Come on.
Of course he's going to say, I've got everything I need.
Oh, man.
Come on. But yeah.
You're getting too much. You're getting too many resources.
Yeah, it's just, if you ask that question of Forster, his answer is forced. He can't say anything. What's he going to say? Kyle Shanahan is a moron. We haven't won 2 Super Bowls because he's an idiot on his cap management blueprint that doesn't allow for us to invest in the offensive line. And on top of that, he refuses to spend any draft picks on it either. So, of course, we're screwed. I mean, Chris Forster says that it's the truth, and he'd be on the street in an hour. You can't say that. And you can't ask him that question either. That's a question to Shanahan where you're talking about, you're the true GM of the team. Do you understand that your weaknesses, that your blind spots are contributing to why you don't have any hardware? Mm-hmm. That's the question asked to him. You don't ask that to Forster. He can't answer that. No way.
And what sucks about that, Tom, is that you and I both know that question was asked to Coach Forster because nobody would dare ask Kyle that question.
Of course. Yeah.
Where it directly
belongs. Yeah.
Where it belongs. Right?
Exactly right, Coach. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what's funny about it is that you don't even want to beat up Coach Forster because it's like, if Coach
Forster, on him, it's not his call.
Thank you. If Coach Forster really could say what he wanted to, he would say, what the fuck are you asking me for? Did you see Kyle today? Well, you missed the question. You missed one.
Exactly right. It's just, come on. You can't ask a captain about a general strategy.
Basically.
No way. That's what that question was about. So, okay. But now let's get to his answer, because now I got some pushback on this. There's people that are saying, okay, well, look what Forster did. The offensive line got him to the Super Bowl.
Where's that comment at?
Not a comment in the chat. It's a comment on Twitter.
Go ahead.
Where basically I said that, look, it's just Forster has to say that, but beyond that, they lost both Super Bowls because Chris Jones had his way with the offensive line. Playoffs are won on matchups. You have to do something about this. And then the pushback that I got from Vish Kumar, who I love, brilliant mind of football.
Vish is a friend of the show. We love Vish.
Vish is great.
Yeah.
But Vish and I disagree on some of this stuff. And Vish, Vish made a great point, and it's true. Nobody's going to beat Chris Jones. That ain't going to happen, and I agree. But here's my point in response to that. Mm-hmm. What you need is someone that closes the gap more than Colton McKivitz between the Niners' offensive line and Chris Jones. Right now, you can do better. It's just you can say that, well, they've reached the ultimate of their potential under Forster. They have. But they still have physical limitations because they were picked in the 5th, 6th, whatever. And so what you need is, you're not going to find someone that's going to be able to take on Chris Forster other than Penei Sewell. Mm-hmm. And so, all right, what else can you do? You can close the gap. And that's the problem, is that the gap is too big. First Super Bowl with Garoppolo, 1 for 9 on pressures with two picks. Cost them the game. Second Super Bowl against Kansas City, 9 unblocked pass rushes on blitzes. Cost them the game. Why aren't you investing in your offensive line? I can get it if you say that, well, we can't afford to do that because of my cap strategy. Okay. Then why aren't you compensating to that with draft picks? You can't do both. You're doing both. You're losing games as a result. Stop it. Well, I get pissed about that stuff. Yeah, but anyway, I got a lot of pushback on that. They came to Shanahan's defense.
No, man. Well, Vish is always going to wear rose-colored lenses when it comes to the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. We know that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Vish is very Kyle-leaning. Right? So, we get that.
I'm the opposite.
Shit, I am too. But what I will say is the offensive line has got to show and prove. I wanted to keep up PDX Niners comment because I really liked this comment right here. And this is, I'm not totally ready to give up on Burford yet, but it's going the wrong way. I agree with this.
That's a great statement.
This is a great comment. I think that Spencer Burford is at an impasse. He's truly at the crossroads of his career.
Yeah, this is the do or die year for him. He has to prove out. And he's got the opportunity. Feliciano's moved to center. Here's your chance. Prove it. And it's on Spencer. It's what can you do, guy? Can you play or not? Look,
for lack of a better term, hey, Spence, barbecue or mildew? This is it. This is it. I feel like, not to get off the beaten path, because there's a lot of guys like this. I think that Drake Jackson is in this position. I think that Ambry Thomas is in this position. I think there's a couple of more players on this. Believe it or not, by what's happened, and I know it may seem unfair, I think Ronnie Bell is in this position. I think that they're...
Well, especially after they signed Jennings.
Cowing.
Yeah. And you look at Cowing and Pearsall and you say, okay, Ronnie Bell, what's your primary contribution? Fumbling punt returns, that's out. So what else can you do? I think that he's going to struggle. He might make he probably would make the practice squad, but I think he doesn't make the 53. There's too much talent there.
Yeah. And
then on top of that, it's for Ambry. I don't see how he makes this team at all.
I don't see how Ambry makes this team. I think Ronnie Bell may get cut. I think Ambry Thomas is a candidate to get cut. I think Kyle Juszczyk is a candidate to get cut this year. I'm telling you, it may happen. The Harvard heartthrob may get cut. I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I don't see any way that Kyle would be willing to do that. I agree with you completely on why you should, but I don't see any world in where Kyle is willing to do that.
Spencer Burford, just to tie it back, Spencer Burford, he's got a full season under his belt. And if I'm him, I feel a little disrespected at the fact that they brought in Joe Feliciano and basically piecemealed my entire season with this guy coming in and out. Spencer Burford, and to be real, Spencer's playing out of position.
He was a tackle at UTSA, and that's where he should be.
He should be a tackle.
Yeah.
He should be a tackle. They're trying to, how can I say, they're trying to optimize his skill set. At tackle, he was fleet of foot, very agile, but he's not long, right? Spencer is not a long athlete, and he could be a little awkward at tackle. But this is what fucks me up. You can take Spencer and put him at guard, but Il Manning is a tackle? Like, how is Il Manning a tackle? Like,
well, because he played one in Hawaii, didn't he? I think that's why. Is that they were carrying? But I agree with you entirely. It's what they did with Spencer was try to put a round hole square peg, and it didn't work. It's just play to what he can do, play to his strengths, play to his wheelhouse. That's tackle. Now, granted, you can say that, well, he's not that good on an island. That's why we moved him inside. But you can still develop his body and his skills so that he could be a tackle. Because look at all the effort that you put into making him a guard. Where's it gotten you? You're nowhere. There's nowhere. Spencer's career is adrift, and he hasn't contributed. And it's not really fair to him. I would put him at tackle and just say, okay, let's see what you can do there. Better off than that.
I want to be fair to him because I don't want to say he hasn't contributed, but he just hasn't been consistent. Spencer has had some good games. He just hasn't
can
been
he be consistent given that it's not his natural position?
That's the question.
Yeah.
That's the question. We have a couple of questions in here too. Going back to guys that are on the bubble, Dave Barclay says, "How about Danny Gray?" I mean, is Danny Gray on the bubble? Is he a now or never guy?
Yeah, no, this is definitely now or never, but at least there's reports that he's making catches with his hands away from his body. That's something he hasn't done yet. If he can keep doing that, and especially if he can do that in the exhibition games, he's got a shot because they do need that skill set. So we'll see. I give him a chance, but he's going to have to keep doing what he's never done.
I mean, Danny Gray, I really think that Danny Gray may be the guy that actually may make it on this team.
He could.
As far as all of the guys that have moved forward, that have come through, I think Drake Jackson's gonna die on the vine. I'm giving up on Drake Jackson. All right. There's another. Who have you given up on?
Drake, Ambry.
Okay.
Most of the linebacking core.
So you've given up on Jalen Graham and D. Winters?
Not necessarily, but I'm worried that it's taken them this long. But I know that the NFL has the 3-year gestation period, so I'm in wait and see on those two for the linebacking core. But I'm worried that they might not get it done, and we'll see. So those are the guys. But I don't think Ambry makes the team. I think Danny Gray has a shot, but it's an outside shot. One thing while we're going through this, there's a question from a guy in Seattle. Do we think Schrader makes the team? No. The running back room is already set.
We have a question right here. We have a question here from Game Time. Would CMC be worth extending longer if he can convert to wideout? I don't see that happening.
No. And the value of CMC is to put him in different spots on the field to force the defense's hand. If you moved him to wide receiver, he would have less utility in doing that of being a positionless football player.
All right, man. So look, we got our signing. Judd, we already talked about it. We just talked about the Chris Forrester presser. We just talked about it. And really, let's just to give a recap real quick, Judd. It was company laden. He held the banner for the culture of the team, especially with how he knows the team is constructed. And if you really think about it, as far as Coach Forrester is concerned, he's the night man. He's the graveyard shift of this organization. He knows where all the bodies are buried. He knows that what he's asked to do with certain players, what he's asked to, how they develop, and how they purposely stay away or go get certain players for the offensive line. So I think that he's very well versed in exactly what his job is on this coaching staff, especially due to the fact that he's got a very unique skill set. Not a lot of offensive line coaches are proficient at running this outside zone scheme. There's a lot of offensive line coaches that know how to run it, right? As far as just the scheme is concerned, you know, the brass tacks of 6-inch step, head movement to the play side, 4 inches outside of the breastplate, like all of that nomenclature, like they can get that. But as far as like, this is the thing about coaching and this is why Coach Forrester is so special, right? And why he's so unique is because it's not the fact that Coach Forrester knows the scheme. It's the fact that Coach Forrester can coach the scheme versus the NFL, which means that week in, week out, no matter the front, no matter the personnel, no matter the defensive coordinator, no matter the player, Coach Forrester can coach that scheme against anybody. Not only have we seen him do it, but I have personally watched him coach. I was at the Commanders game. When I tell you about coaching, bruh, that's one of the hardest working coaches I've ever seen. He does not stop coaching. From the very time that they run on the field for kickoff to the last play of the game. I sat 2 rows behind the 49ers bench when they went to go play the Commanders out here in Landover. All right? And I watched Coach Forrester coach. Now, this was not a hard-fought game. This wasn't a game that had big implications behind it. Nothing. This was a regular-ass game. And the man earns his money. That much I will say. All right. He is a hard working coach. And I'll tell you this. This may seem sacrilegious, but this is the truth. Kyle can't coach this offense the way Coach Forrester can coach that offensive line. When I see that offensive line come to the sideline, Coach Forrester is chomping at the bit to talk to them about literally every play that just happened on the field. Yeah. And he has comments and commentary for every player up and down that offensive line. Every player. Good, bad, or indifferent. There is nothing about the game that he shies away from. There is no player on the offensive line that asks Coach Forrester a question and he does not have an answer. There is not a time during the game where Coach Forrester is by himself, losing focus, trying to figure out what his next move is. He is always using his time to facilitate the players around him. No wasted movement. None.
Yeah.
I cannot say the same thing about Kyle Shanahan.
No.
that was going to fork out the money to be a good team in the NFL at the time. That's the reason why this scheme was built. This scheme wasn't built because they cared about football so much that they wanted to see the ball graciously matriculate down the field. No, this scheme was built because the fucking owner doesn't want to spend money the way Jerry Jones does. All right? Because owners say to themselves, I'm not paying for fucking Nate Newton. I'm not paying for Larry fucking Allen. All right? I'm not paying for Willie Roaf. I'm not paying for Jonathan Ogden. Like, these guys cost a shit ton of money that we don't have. All right? And this scheme got built because of, let me say this. They were very ingenuitive, right? They were very smart. And the reason why is because they took a less used part of football and they repurposed it and made it into something better, right? It's almost like soul food. Half of soul food is just scraps that slaves ate that we just repurposed and made good as hell, right? He just basically turned offensive linemen into ribs, right? He just basically found it and said, yeah, he basically said, all right, look, the best offensive linemen are your blue chip 6 whatever, 300 whatever guys who are going to be road graders and are going to be one-of-one body snatchers, right? We're not in a position to be able to have that across the offensive line. And even if you do get a guy that looks the part, you're going to figure out once you start going up against real defensive linemen in the NFL, because the NFL has always had great defensive linemen. What they ended up doing is they went out and they got journeymen. All right, not journeymen, but older players, your juniors, your seniors that have played 4 years in college football, where the style of football at the time, you could find scrappy, tough, veteran offensive linemen milling around in football. You could find those guys. But now, because football has been diluted through college football, through the spread offenses, finding the same characteristic of player doesn't mean that it's going to lend you to the same type of athlete that you're going to get down the line. And that's what has hurt the 49ers moving forward when it comes to how they pick their offensive linemen. And we saw it in the draft, guys. We saw it. Moving forward in the draft, we're still here. Moving forward in the draft, we thought that out of the best draft that we had seen in 20 years, bro, we thought that we were going to be able to see the Niners come in like gangbusters and go get their guys, rectify this offensive line problem for once and for all. But it didn't happen. And I'm not here to cry about it. I'm not going to push for it to act as if that it should be more than what it is. But what I am saying is that I'm paying attention to it. I'm not pushing back on it as if the Niners just missed their window on getting the best offensive lineman possible. I think that they have a way of doing things, and we saw that. We saw what was emblematic of that moving forward with this season with a Dominic Pooney signing, where Dominic Pooney is a good guy. He's one-of-one, but at the same time, you're up, Tom. But at the same time, it was an underwhelming pick. I like what Jared Kingston brings as far as what he is as an athlete in a vacuum, but it was an underwhelming pick. It was later on in the draft. He's a fifth-year senior, a transfer at that. The same thing with Nugent, who's a UDFA. I mean, right now, it just doesn't seem that we're building an offensive line to take care of a $50 million a year quarterback.
Nope. And, it's just, can you shake Kyle out of this mindset, out of this blueprint? Mm-hmm. And he's going to say, I've been to 2 Super Bowls with this blueprint. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. And then the Niners have to respond with, you haven't won one. And we don't settle for Super Bowl appearances here. And I think that that's going to be the key point in all this. When is Kyle going to face the music on your cap blueprint for the offensive line is preventing this team from winning championships? You must change. And will he do that? I don't know. My apologies on the technical difficulties. Sorry, everybody.
Stop it.
We'll see. But just getting back to this, it still comes down to Forster does everything that's asked of him. But for the Niners to win a championship, they're going to have to close the gap.
Right.
Yeah, I learned this from covering the Niners in the Walsh era. It was often said to me by a number of people in the organization, playoffs are won on matchups. And it doesn't appear to me that Kyle is looking at it that way, that he thinks that, no, it's won by my system versus your system. And we saw what happened in the Super Bowl. Spagnuolo had 9 unblocked pass rushers on blitzes. Yeah. Kyle's going to have to solve simulated pressure this year. It's going to be really key because a lot of teams took notes on what Baltimore and Kansas City did.
100%. And, it's a monkey see, monkey do league. That's part of the reason why we feel like Brandon Staley is here, so we can bring a little bit of that juju into our own building. Right. And we're going to see. But for what it's worth, Jauan Jennings is signed 2 years, $10 million in change guaranteed, $15 million in change over 2 years, $7 million in change per. Doesn't mean that, we bought the cow, but at least we got a gallon of milk. So
we'll take what we got.
We'll take what we got. So, all right. Well, bringing up the last topic of the show, what I want to do is just close this out. We lost a storied and recognizable athlete, sports commentator, sports personality, and just one of the better people that have ever been not a part of just basketball, but just sports. And that's the late and great Bill Walton. And Tom wanted to be able to have this moment for him to be able to touch on this. And Tom, you got the floor. We want to pay Mr. Walton his respects.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Yeah, just to tell a quick story, just a brief moment where I was with Bill Walton. 2006 NBA playoffs, the Lakers were up 3-1, game at Staples, and let's see what happens. And park my car, get to a stoplight, and all of a sudden, Bill Walton and Lori Walton are walking up right next to me. And what? And so I kind of do a double take, and then, hi, Waltons. And they say hello and smile. And then I look at Bill because, knowing that he's so well versed in John Wooden and all of his maxims, I told Bill that just tonight's the night for competitive greatness. And he said, absolutely. That's Walton Wood, and he loved it. And then people started catching on that Bill and Lori Walton were there, and people are calling across from the other side of the street. Light changes green, and I stay on my side for a little bit just to enjoy Bill Walton working the crowd for 3 blocks going into Staples. And it's this wave of joy that he engages everybody. He makes them feel great. He loves the sport, the game. He loves being there. He's living in the moment. And it's a joy to see that. Of somebody that, one of the great maxims for me and in the way that I choose my life is I think that it's critically important to invest in others, and especially empathy. That in a world where we need empathy more than ever, it's important to invest in others, and that we're best when we are together. And Bill Walton did that on a level that I've never seen in terms of just how he would interact with people, how he would lift their spirit, how he would make them appreciative of the moment. Even when he's being intentionally goofy, his heart is so big and you see it that you can't help but be moved by that and inspired by it. And so I was really saddened that, I had my 30 seconds with Bill and Lori Walton, and it was great. And I loved that. But beyond that, I loved what he did in posing for selfies and talking people up and having a great time all the way into Staples. And just this mob formed around him. And this wave came into the building with Bill. And it's just a great spirit, somebody that lifts us up that much. He will definitely be missed. I mean, I draw a lot of importance from the example that he set of always, and this is from my dad, and this is something that you do as well in terms of giving empathy and lifting people up and being involved in their lives. That's one of the most important things we
Sorry. But look, Bill Walton, one of the greatest personalities in sports. One thing that I can say about Bill Walton is the warmth. You do feel like you're either dealing with some form of warmth in your life that you recognize, whether it be family, whether it be a teacher that you know, whether it be a coach that you had, whether it be a friend's parent that you had. Bill Walton just always, in my opinion, personified family. He just personified, like just a basketball dad. Like, even in the most competitive, cutthroat arenas, Bill Walton's personality seemed to have the ability to cut through all of it and give a sense of normalcy, a sense of self-deprecation. And also he would give a sense of humbleness, just never taking yourself too seriously. And
Absolutely.
He's going to be sorely missed. I hate to end the show on such a somber note, but it really is a job well done to a great man. We're gonna miss Bill Walton, and I'm sure Luke Walton and the family are gonna be lifted up by the Laker family and the basketball community at large, just the sports community at large. And we just want to be able to just take this moment to give Bill Walton his flowers. So, hey, this is another good one. How you feel, Tom?
Yeah, well, I'm feeling good. This is going to be interesting of what happens from here.
Hell yeah.
But I wouldn't overreact. My overall message on Jauan is don't overreact to it. He's probably going to get dealt next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Dave Barclay, we're just going to close out with this comment before we leave. Dave Barclay says, Tom, that was so meaningful, and I could tell how much he meant. I did not even know of him, but what you said about how we should treat each other and lift each other up is what I try to model daily. And it's 100%, man.
Absolutely,
it's what we
Dave.
all try
Absolutely.
to. Yeah. So, hey, guys, this is another good one. This is the coach, and this is Tom. Stay low and keep your feet moving, man. This is a good one, guys.